My name is Jonathan. I'm 16 years old, and I'm a sophomore at Michelle Clark. I would like to welcome Mr. Derek Brewer.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Jonathan, and it's an honor to be here and to spend some time with an outstanding young person like yourself. I've heard nothing but great things about you, and I'm sure your parents and your community and everybody is just so proud of you. You're a great role model and a great leader for young people. So I just want to commend you and salute you for all the hard work that you put in, because I know it's been a lot of work. You don't achieve some of the things that you've done without putting in a lot of effort and staying focused. And so I'm really proud of you, and it's just an honor to be in your presence.
Thank you. And I would just like to thank you for being a part of the Black Table.
Oh, sure.
So, my first question for you is about aspiration. Um, what did you dream of growing up?
Ah, well, I had a real vivid imagination. Growing up about 3, 4, 5 years old, I wanted to be a fireman, a policeman, a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor. And I thought I could do all 5 or 6 of those things, you know. And so I had a lot of different goals, but they were all really, I think, positive goals and dreams that I had as a little kid growing up, you know.
All right. So, um, how did it change or evolve?
Well, as I got older, I realized, not everybody shared the same dream for me that I had for myself. So, I ended up going to school, and I grew up in a real tough neighborhood on 63rd Street off Cottage Grove. And, we had a lot of family challenges. My mom, she had some mental health issues. She was schizophrenic and a manic depressant. So she had a lot of mood swings and a lot of ups and downs. So that was a real challenge for me as a young person, always worried about her. So I was always worried about my mother and what if something happened to her. So it was hard to kind of focus on school and everything. But I did well in elementary school. But by the time I got to high school, I failed every class. I never passed a class. 3 years in high school, I was a third year freshman. And it wasn't that I didn't understand the work, it was I had so many pressures on me, gangs, drugs, um, no money, just really tough time. And eventually at 16, after 4 high schools, I dropped out of high school and I became a homeless uh, student. And eventually I was in a foster program.
All right. So, what sustained you to achieve your goals?
Well, it was my faith. My mother, she had, like I said before, she had a lot of issues. But the one thing she gave me, she said, I don't have any money, I don't have any education, but the one thing I'm gonna give you is your name. And it's up to you what you do with your name. And if you get in with the wrong people and get in trouble, go to prison, start having children when you're not married, get strung out on drugs, that's all going to reflect your name and your character. So she said, the only thing I can give you is a good name, and it's up to you to try to keep it good and keep it clean. And the second thing she gave me was a faith. She said, no matter how rough things get, no matter how bad things get, always remember you can pray. And if you pray, prayer works. And as a little kid, I didn't kind of buy into all of it, but I thought, well, I'll just keep that in mind. And sure enough, one day when I was in the park sleeping that night, and I woke up the next day, it dawned on me to say a prayer, because I said, "Hey, God, this is a tough life. I got no food, nowhere to live. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares about me. And what's the point of even living anymore?" You know. And I thought about what my mother said. Well, just pray when it gets like that. And so only prayer I knew was the Lord's Prayer, our Father who art in heaven. And I said that prayer. And man, I bet you maybe 5 days later, I was going to meet to stay with this foster family that I had met earlier. And they took me in. At 16, I went back to school. I finished with honors, graduated in 1 year of school, high school with honors, and went off to college and did extremely well in college. And so that was what got me through, my faith, and always remembering, no matter how hard times get, you can always pray, and don't do anything to mess up your name. Because there was ways I could have got money. My friends, they were stealing cars, they were snatching purses, they were robbing people. And I could have done some of those things and got money. But I kept thinking, man, if I get in trouble, then I gotta go to court, then I'm gonna be locked up, and then my mother's gonna be upset, and then I can never go to college. So I kept thinking about those kind of things, not messing up, and keeping a faith. And like I said, I kept praying, and it all worked out beautifully. It worked out 100 times better than I could have imagined.
All right. This is great. Can I move on to the next question?
Sure.
All right. So experience. What happened in your life to point you down your path?
Well, once I went back to high school and started having success in high school, then I really started to figure out what was going on in my life. In my life, I realized that I suffered from low self-confidence. You know, I thought I could do some things. If somebody asked me to dribble a basketball, I could do that well. But if somebody asked me to do algebra, math problems, I didn't think I could do that. So what I sort of realized when I went back to high school was that it all starts in what you think, what you believe. And if you think you can't do something, you probably won't be able to do it. But if you think you can do something, it might be hard, but you're willing to keep trying at it. So I realized um, that I had to keep my confidence high, no matter what people did to try to tear me down or tear down what I felt about myself or what I thought I could achieve. I had to believe that I could achieve it. It didn't matter what the world thought about me. What became important is, what did I think about the world? And what I thought about the world was, just as good as anybody in this world, and I should be able to achieve just as well as anybody else in this world. So when I went back to high school, the thing I kept in mind was, never put myself down, never say things to myself like, "Oh, that was stupid. Oh, how could you have done that? You was crazy." Never say things about negative about myself, you know, and to keep saying positive things like, "Hey, you can do this. You're strong. You've overcome a lot. You are homeless. You was a dropout. Now look at you. You're in college." I had to keep looking at any little positive success. Whenever I got down, all I had to do was think about any little success that I have. And I'm sure you have that situation too. You start to doubt yourself sometimes. You wonder, do you have what it takes? Can you really make it? But then you look back and you say, well, hey, I learned to ride a bike. I learned to swim. I learned to throw a ball. I learned, Spanish. I learned this. Hey, if I learn those things, I can learn anything. And so I started to build up my confidence. I started to believe that I can do great things. And no matter what anybody said, I kept believing that. And I kept having confidence. And I refused to let anybody, under any circumstances, make me feel like I was less than a person or that I could not achieve something.
Let me ask you this. Was it a success or was it an obstacle?
The obstacles or the challenges or the problems that I face, all of those taught me that you can overcome anything. So we all have a story to tell about our lives. We all have suffered something. Every human being has suffered some kind of way. But we also have had times where we felt happy and joyful. And then we've had times when we suffered and we overcome the suffering. And so that was an important lesson to learn, that you might suffer some bad things for a minute, but eventually you can overcome them. So the challenges and the problems, those things only make you stronger if you keep your faith and you keep confidence. Now, if those problems and challenges overwhelm you and they become too much for you, then the thing I learned was you gotta get help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Because sometimes you can have a problem and you can figure out how to fix it. You may think, okay, let me try it this way or let me talk to this person. But sometimes you come across a problem, it's too big for you to handle. So you need to have a network of adults who you trust. One, two, three adults, male or female, who you have confidence in and you trust that that person cares about your future. It has to be somebody who's always saying, hey, I know you can accomplish great things. I believe in you. If somebody that has confidence in you, then you should use that person as a resource. When you become overwhelmed and you can't figure out what to do, there has to be at least one other adult that you can go to for advice and guidance. So the problems that I faced taught me that, hey, stay strong, stay confident, keep praying. And when it gets too much, look for some help or support.
Right. That's great. So next, what were some things in your life that you're most proud of?
Wow. The thing I'm most proud of is that even though I wanted to be a lawyer, a fireman, a police, a teacher, a doctor, and everything growing up as a little kid, what I end up becoming is an educator and working 35 years with young people as an assistant principal, a school administrator, a director of staff development and training for teachers and principals. So I'm really proud of the fact that I ended up in education and I ended up working with young people, a lot of young people who were just like me, who lost confidence in themselves, who no longer believed they could achieve at a high level, who doubted themselves, who was failing. Those are my favorite students. Students who are way off track, struggling, who feel like they're about to sink and drown. That's my greatest achievement, being able to reach out to those young people and offer them a lifeline and tell them that there is somebody who believes in them, and then to work with them and give them the tools and the help, support, and resources. Because so many of them are overwhelmed by the problems, they don't even know where to start. So when I started working with young people, I would ask them what their dream or goal was, and then I would ask them what's the biggest challenge or obstacle in the way. And then I would say, okay, let's start making some plans on how we can overcome that obstacle, go around that obstacle, or go through that obstacle. And then I let them know I'm going to be here with you all the way through this. So I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of young people. Some of them have become policemen. Some of them have become doctors. Some of them have gone on to prison. but I stay in touch with them and I encourage them all that no matter where they ended up, they can always improve and do better. And all they have to do is constantly look for solutions to the obstacles that they face. Never let an obstacle beat you. You can beat it, but you got to come up with strategies. And you're an athlete, you understand that the name of the game is strategy. There are other people on that field or on that court that are just as good as you, but it comes down to who has the most effective strategy. Everybody can bounce a ball, throw a ball, but who has the best strategy for getting the score? And if it doesn't work one way, you try another strategy. If it doesn't work that way, you try another strategy. You know that playing video games. You know, you try to beat the game this way, and if that doesn't work, you try this way. And when you run out of ideals, you call a friend and you say, hey, well, how did you beat this game? You know, and that's the game of life. It's the same way as it's just a giant video game. You got parents, you got community, you got friends, you got enemies, you got all that going on. And the best way to figure out how to win the game is to talk to people who have played it and won it.
All right. So, as my last question, um, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want? What are things you want people to remember you by or say about you?
I really, I really love people. That is really, ever since I was a little kid, I like people. I'm a people person.
Right.
I really, yeah, I love to see people happy. I love to see people having fun. I love positive. When I was a kid growing up, another Chicago singer named Lou Ross had a song called Groovy People. You know, I don't like anybody that's got an attitude. You know, those kind of people I just can't use. His whole song was about groovy, just positive people. And I've always felt that I love being around positive people. And I want my legacy to be when people think of me and they think of my students, think of me and they say, well, Mr. Brewer, wow, he was a positive person. He never had anything, he never tried to put you down. He always tried to say something to build you up and to make you believe that you could achieve anything and that you were superhuman and special. So my legacy, it should be what I would like my legacy to be, is the people to remember me as a positive, uplifting person who tried to uplift as many people as I could. And I did it because I just love people. And I believe love is the key.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Brewer. I want to thank you for your time and your words of encouragement. um, you have been an amazing guest, and everything that you told me, I took that to heart because me and you are like really similar.
Oh, okay.
We really are.
Love to stay in touch with you and see how things turn out for you. And I'd love for you to see me as a resource, as part of your network.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you faced with success, I love to hear about it. Or if you're faced with a problem, I love to hear about it. You know, so I'm like I told you earlier, I am so proud of you and so many young people like you who just no matter what the obstacle or challenge, they still keep striving. And I want, and like I tell all my students, you're going to be okay no matter what the problem is. I mean, I had serious problems as a kid. You name the abuse, it happened to me. Any kind of abuse you want to talk about, I had it. Emotional, physical, sexual, verbal, you name it. And I'm still here and I love life and I love people. And no matter what happens, sometimes you think you're not going to make it, but all you got to do is keep believing in yourself. Like the old people say a prayer and keep the faith and do the right thing. And hey, I'm here to tell you, Jonathan, the sky is the limit for a young man like you can be president, you can own your own sports team, you can do it all. There's nothing really that you can't overcome. When I look at my life, 63 years, and I look back over it, and if I could talk to my 16-year-old self, the first thing I would say to my 16-year-old self, homeless, dropout, I would look at him and say, hey, this is just a phase you're going through. You're gonna live and do great things. You're gonna do great things. Don't let this situation define who you are. So you might not be perfect, you may not have everything perfect, but your situation don't define you. It's what you think and how you feel that makes your character. And it's your character that determines the type of person that you are. And people for the most part like people who have a good character. They like people they can trust. They like people that are dependable. They like people who mean well. And as long as people feel that you are real and that that's really you, they'll respond to that, you know. So always stay positive, young Jonathan, and man, the sky is the limit for you.
Thank you. You've been an amazing guest for this Black Table. Thank you for your time.